Within this lecture, we're going to finalize our ARP response and send it to the target machine. So let me go back to my network scanner in here, okay? Because I want to confirm that my Windows machine has really the IP of 10.02.8. So let me run my network scanner, and I have to specify a range which is 10.02.1/24, and it gives me an error because rather than saying I said T. So if I change it to I, now I got the results back. So let me make this a little bit bigger. As you can see, we have the Windows IP down below, and it's 10.02.8, and it has this MAC address. And we're going to need this MAC address actually, so let me copy it. And I'm doing this manually, but later on we will automate this because we know how to get MAC addresses out of IPs, right? We have written this function before in the network scanner, so we can use that function. But for right now, I'm testing this, so I'm going to do this manually. So let me go back to my ARP Poison again, and let me open my code. And in here, I have to specify the target MAC address as well, which is HWDST. And let me paste what I have copied previously. And how do I know this HWDST? Of course, I got it from this ls output. Remember, we had this MAC field in here, and its default value is 0000. This is MAC field, and this is 00, and we have to give it target MAC address in here. So other than that, other than HWDST, what do I have to change? As you can see, I have too many features, too many attributes here. So as you can see, I have an ARP source MAC field and some source IP field, okay? And it has the default values of Kali Linux, because Kali Linux has 10.02.15. If you run ifconfig, ifconfig, you will get the same result as well. So this is the Kali Linux MAC address, and this is the Kali Linux IP address. But I want to change this IP address, right? Because if I send this packet, ARP response packet, these values will be left as these default values. And what do I want to do? I want to say to the target that my source IP field is actually 10.02.1, the router's IP field, right? So the target will think me as of a router. And then I will do the same for router, and I will change my IP address once more, and the router will think me as the target. So I have to change the target IP field and source IP field when I deal with this issue. Maybe you had practiced this when you deal with man-in-the-middle tool back in ethical hacking part, but I think now it makes much more sense to you because you know the theory, you know what's going on in the backstage at this point. So what we want to do, we want to change this source IP field, which is PSRC, okay? PSRC. So let me go back to my code and change this PSRC, okay? So I will say PSRC is now 10.02.1 because this is the router's IP address. And I will send this response, so let me make this into a comment, and all I have to say is scapy.send. So scapy.send, and what do I want to send? Of course, ARP response. So we are now ready to test this and see if it actually works on Windows. So let me save this, and let me go back to my terminal in here. Okay, Let me go down and let me clear this screen, and we're going to run this ARP Poison. And before we run this, let me go back to my Windows machine because I want to check my ARP table to be sure that this has actually worked. So let me open my CMD in here and run ARP-A. So this displays the interactions of network with the Windows, so we can see the IP addresses and MAC addresses pairings in here as well. And there is nothing wrong with this table. We can see that our Windows machine has 10.02.8, and we can see the router IP, the router MAC address, and at this point we didn't run any attacks yet, so this is correct as it's supposed to be. So let me run this. Okay, ARP poisoning, and it has sent 1 packets and it stopped. So let me go back to my Windows machine once more and run the same command. And as you can see, now in here we see that the router's MAC address has actually changed. And it changed to be the MAC address of 10.02.15. So they are the same. The router has the same MAC address as Kali machine at this point. So our ARP poisoning has actually worked. We managed to change the MAC address of the router, so the Windows machine now thinks that the Kali machine is the router. So if I create another response and send it to the router, then my attack will be completed. Of course, this is not that simple. We're going to get much more complicated in this ARP poisoning tool, but let us stop here and do the next steps in the next lecture.